Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Anna Stashkina and today I'm going to share with you how to make wafer paper blossoms and butterflies. So this was a tutorial I made for CakeFlix during their Caking All Around the World event. So let's begin. And today we are going to make this light colored blossoms and this relatively realistic looking butterflies. As always, you can download free tutorial and class materials. I prepared a lot of interesting things for you to start working with wafer paper. And if you want to download, I have a link, but you can visit my website and you can find all this information. We'll start with making our blossoms and then we'll go and make our butterflies. Let's talk about wafer paper. If you never touched or worked with wafer paper, maybe, especially if you're located in Europe, you should probably have this confections nougat or taron. So the bottom layer of this nougat confection, there is a thin sheet of paper, edible paper. That's actually wafer paper. So now you know, probably now you know that you touched wafer paper. I'm using this brand, I'm using Saracino today. This is 0.27 millimeters. Equal number or equal grade here in the States is going to be premium or AD grade wafer paper. But any wafer paper would work for this application. So wafer paper has two sides, technically, like one side called bumpy side, as you can see this side, and the other side called smooth side. For our application today, we're going to use both sides. And I'll show you the difference. But if you're working and making flowers or making any decorations out of wafer paper, it doesn't matter what side you prefer to use. Both are equal and cool. So I have a small piece of wafer paper. Usually when you have if you're using a template to work with wafer paper, usually what I do is I take a smaller piece of wafer paper, place it on top, and I use my sharp end of a Drezden tool, like this, to trace my petal. But today, for the demonstration purposes, I will use just a regular pencil so you can see and follow what I'm doing. So I'm placing my one layer of wafer paper on top of my template and I'm tracing one petal. Then I will take a pair of sharp scissors and cut 3 layers. Because when you're working with thin wafer paper like we are working today, and you're using very sharp scissors, you can cut up to 3 layers or even 4, depends on your needs. And I'm going to cut 3 layers at the same time. If you used your thin or sharp end of your Drezden tool, you won't see any pencil marks. So I will discard this petal. And I have 2 petals here, and I have a few more I cut yesterday because I wanted to tell you a lot of things about wafer paper. That's why I'm trying to be prepared. And for my purposes to vein and shape my petals, I'm going to use simple Drezden tool. I'm using my wafer paper conditioner recipe that consists of food grade glycerin. You can buy this, brand is Wilton, it is very inexpensive, and water. I have distilled water, but you can use just regular tap water. You can buy glycerin at any place where you buy your cake supplies, or even at the craft store you can buy Wilton glycerin, or Amazon. A lot of places sell these things. But the beauty of using glycerin with wafer paper, because glycerin is humectant and it will help your wafer paper to stay soft and pliable for longer period of time than using just water or alcohol. So to make my conditioner, I'm going to use maybe 2 drops of glycerin. I just have it in this dropper bottle. It is much easier. Maybe just a few drops of water. And if you're going to download this class materials, I wrote everything down so you will have it and you can test it at home and try. And I'm going to use just a little bit of this dusty pink gel color. And because this conditioner mixture is water-based, you can use any gel color to make your conditioner. And to color my petals, I'm going to use this large brush, add a little bit of liquid here, mix it together. You can see how bright is that. You can adjust this to your liking. As you can see here, my flowers, or like my blossoms, are relatively dull and not so bright, but today for the demonstration purposes, I'm going to make it a little bit brighter. So what you need to do when you want to make your wafer paper soft, as you can see here, it's a little bit papery like, and to make it soft, I need to apply just a thin layer of my wafer paper conditioner. And because we are making basic or like simple blossoms, I'm going to apply my conditioner only on one side. And for this application, I'm using my bumpy side up because I prefer to have a little bit more texture on my petal. You can see it is not melting, but it's getting much softer compared that it was before. And I'm going to place it on my floral pot and make sure it lays flat. So again, I'm applying just a thin layer, but I'm trying to achieve even color without darker spots or lighter spots. And for one flower, we need about 4 petals because I made these flowers inspired by hydrangeas, but you can definitely use this same technique and same template to make any type of flowers you want. You can make your petals more like a teardrop shape, and then you can make it look like it's cherry blossom or plum blossoms. Here I have 5. I think that's going to be enough. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my fluffy brush. And what I have on my fluffy brush is just a touch of cornstarch or corn flour. We call it cornstarch. Just the smallest amount possible. This is a little bit even more than I need. And I'm going to apply a thin layer of this cornstarch onto my petals. And I still have my petals bumpy side up. So this is going to be my face side for my petals. Using cornstarch with wafer paper and with this conditioner helps to maintain the moisture level and make it more like flexible and interesting and not so sticky, because we are going to assemble these flowers in a second and we need these petals to be not so sticky. So I'm touching my petals, making sure nothing is sticky. And I'm using sharp end of my Drezden tool. I'm holding my petal at the bottom and I'm gently pressing down to create some texture or to make it look like it's not flat. It's not just wafer paper. And at this point, when your petals are soft and pliable and we just condition them, you can do whatever you want. You can put it in a veneer, you can use Drezden tool, you can use bolt tool, and you can see this petal is curling a little bit. So what I will do is I will take a little bit more of my cornstarch on my fluffy brush and apply a little bit more to prevent this wafer paper from melting here and there. And if you live in a dry climate and your wafer paper evaporates, like the color, the moisture evaporates in a second, you don't need to use cornstarch. You can use just this conditioner and adjust glycerin to water ratio to your needs. Again, just a few strokes here and there. And I'm turning my petal upside down because I want it to be cupped, but I want these petals to maintain its shape. So I will put it aside to dry, and I have quite a few prepared. I'll show you the next step. So here I have a few more. And to do my next step, to assemble my flower, my tiny blossom, I will need my wafer paper glue. And wafer paper glue is just a mixture of wafer paper. I use these scraps mixed with water, and I usually let it to bloom for maybe overnight or at least a few hours. So these are my petals after they've been drying. I made them yesterday, so but usually even these ones you can use them already. They are soft and pliable, but dry enough to be assembled. And I'm going to take just the smallest amount of my wafer paper glue. You can see it's relatively thick, it's like gel-like mixture, but it helps to prevent wafer paper from melting. And I'm going to attach 2 of my petals, then one behind this, and press them down, and one on top here. And then I will place it in a shaper. Any type of shaper, petal shaper will work for this application. Here again, 2 petals, and I'm applying smallest amount of wafer paper glue as possible, because wafer paper glue will soften our petals, and then it might become a little bit too soft or too sticky. And one on front like this, and place it here to dry. And we will start working on our butterflies. Let's see if we can use this one as well. This one is a little bit larger one. Again, 1, 2, and you can see it takes just a few seconds to make these flowers. You can make your wafer paper petals far in advance, like at least few days, but technically if you store them in a plastic bag or food safe container, you can keep your petals pre-made or even your flowers for a few years. I think nothing is going to happen. So let's start with our butterflies while we are waiting on our petals to dry. And for our butterflies, I'm going to bring in my template because I'm going to need this. And I'll show you the easiest way I found to make wafer paper butterflies. I'll share all my secrets with you. I've tested a few different ways how to make butterflies, and I found that this one is the easiest one. If you know me, I'm all about the easiest way of working and making things. So to do this and to create my butterflies, I'm going to use petal dusts. Because usually for my wafer paper, I'm using gel colors. But for this particular one, I'm going to create my butterflies, I'm going to use petal dusts. And it depends on your needs and it depends on your preference what petal dusts what colors you want to use. But I'm going to use probably this. These are by the Sugar Art. So I'm going to use this Poppy, Daffodil, and Aurora Rose. Say it 10 times faster. So I have 3 different brushes. These are regular craft brushes and this is a makeup brush. But for working with your dusts, I prefer to use makeup brushes or these dense brushes because then they hold on dry materials like dry dusts or cornstarch much better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush. And I have a piece of wafer paper here on my template. This is just template of butterfly. You can, if you want to make it larger, you can scale it up or you can download the larger version. And I have a piece of wafer paper. This is a thin wafer paper, 0.27 millimeters, shiny side up or smooth side up, because I found when you apply dry dust to your wafer paper, it takes on texture and like the color much better on the shiny side. And I'm placing my butterfly, my wafer paper on top on my butterfly, and I'm going to take just a little bit of this yellow, this is daffodil dust, and I'm loading my brush, I would say relatively heavy, and I'm going to dust it just in the middle. So this is going to be my middle part. And you can see I'm not trying to be very careful with my application, and I will do the same with the Aurora Rose color, and I will apply a few lines here just to add some interest. And I'm rubbing my brush onto my wafer paper relatively heavy. So I'm trying to make this petal dust stick to my wafer paper as much as possible. And I'm going to take this poppy color, this is red color, and paint this on the bottom. So this bottom part here is going to be red. And you can see I have my colors all over my template. So this template is just a guidance. I'm going to remove excess petal dust. You can see it doesn't look like a butterfly, but when we are going to apply a few more secret things, so I'm going to take my butterfly with Wafer paper, and I'm going to take a thin brush, because I prefer to use thin brush and not edible marker. But if you have thin edible marker, these are not fine tip edible marker, these are not so fine, so you can use edible marker. I personally prefer to use fine point brush, this one, and I'm going to use just a touch of super black airbrush food color. For me it is much easier to paint, especially on Wafer paper, using a thin brush than using an edible marker. Maybe because I didn't find the edible marker I like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my dusted butterfly on top of my template, and I'm going to paint around. So I'm going to load my brush with this black airbrush color. And for your needs, if you don't want to use black, you can use brown, or you can use even lighter color or dilute it, because then it will make your butterfly more realistic or like suit to your design. And I'm looking at my template, and I'm just outlining my butterfly first. Maybe camera doesn't show that so well, but actually when you place your Wafer paper on top of your template, you can see your butterfly and you can see your outline through Wafer paper. So when I'm trying to outline and paint my butterfly, doesn't matter if I'm going to use a brush or I'm going to use a fine tip marker, I can see through my Wafer paper and I can see my template. So here's my butterfly, and I will show you how to put it on a wire if you want your butterfly to be wired. So I will turn it upside down, cut a small piece of Wafer paper to be my back side, and I will take a piece of wire. You can use, with Wafer paper, you can use 26 or 28 gauge wire, doesn't matter, because Wafer paper is relatively thin compared to gum paste or sugar paste. It's not heavy, so it's much easier to use thinner wires. I have my butterfly, I have my wire, and another piece of Wafer paper here to attach my wire. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring my Wafer paper glue, and remember, you have everything in your class materials, and you can download and make it for yourself. So I'm applying just a small amount of Wafer paper glue to both sides here and there. I'm going to place my wire in the middle, and then I will put my piece of Wafer paper on top. So I'm sandwiching my wire in between two layers of Wafer paper, but because it's going to be my back side, nobody is going to see this. And then I will take my Drezden tool and gently press in the middle to shape my butterfly. And I'm using thick side of my Drezden tool, like this. So now I have my butterfly on a wire. If you use a relatively thin wire, you can see it has some movement, and I find it's fascinating. I really love this technique. And we have only one step left. Now is my favorite part, or maybe one of my favorite parts, is make everything sparkly. Let me bring my flowers. So you can see these flowers we made just a few minutes ago. It's already ready to be decorated. And you can make as many flowers, butterflies as you want. I know that I prepared more butterflies, so I have few more of these butterflies. Let me cut it around And to make everything super sparkly and super interesting, I'm going to take this confectioner's art jewel dust, and it's so shiny. And it's food grade, so if you don't want to use wire and you want to place these flowers directly on your buttercream, on your fondant cakes, you don't need to worry about anything inedible on your flowers. I'm going to take a smaller brush, and I have piping gel or clear gel, anything sticky you can use for this application. Here's my piping gel, my flowers and my butterflies. What I'm going to do to make it super sparkly, super shiny and super cool, I'm just going to dip my brush into piping gel just a little bit, just thinnest, tiniest amount. And I'm going to dip my brush with piping gel in this jewel dust. You can see how much shiny and brighter it gets. And then I'm going to paint this mixture onto my butterfly. And I'm using piping gel with wafer paper for this application because piping gel or clear gel or deca gel won't melt wafer paper, and for something a little bit more heavier like this jewel dust than just petal dust. You can see how shiny it gets just from the smallest amount of this jewel dust. So, can you see how sparkly it gets? I'm just obsessed with this type of decorations. And for my flowers, I'm going to dip my brush in this piping gel again, in this jewel dust. I have a little bit more than I might want. And I'm going to rotate my brush. So you can see I press it down, I rotate it, and then I remove it. And then I will have my flower center also made out of this mixture. So again, I'm grabbing just a small amount of piping gel on my brush, dip it in my jewel dust, place it in the middle of my flower, and I'm holding my flower because it will want to go everywhere. Placing my brush down, rotate, and remove. And then I have this flower center. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope you like this tutorial, and don't forget to download your template and share on social media when you make your blossoms and butterflies. My name is Anna Stashkina. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye bye.